Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in week after week after week. I can't thank you guys enough. I truly am inspired by just, the feedback and the comments. So thank you. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Veracity Networks, and my good friend Drew Peterson. Thank you for supporting this great cause and allowing this to grow even more because of you. So thank you. And I want to thank all our guests that have been on the show. It's because of you of why this thing's taken off. And today's going to be no different. I have a really good friend of mine, Jimmy Rex, on today. Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here, Todd. Thank you so much.
You bet. And Jimmy's been on before. I think it was episode like 61 or something.
Yeah, it was
like that.
Early on. We've been doing this for a while.
We've been doing it for a while. And I've admired Jimmy for a long, long time. This guy's amazing. And I don't just say that because he's sitting here. He really, truly is. And it's not because of all the success he's had. He's had tons of it, but it's more about how he treats people. And you're gonna feel that with him today. I mean, I'm gonna list off a few things, and this is not even coming close to all the great things that he's doing. He's a real estate beast. I mean, you're a realtor. The stuff that you do, you sold over 2,000 properties in the last several years. I mean, you're like the number one guy. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, you sold the most expensive home in Utah.
I did. In the history of the Utah MLS last summer, it was $32 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good day.
That is amazing. Again, you have a passion for helping others. You're an entrepreneur. You're a mentor. You're a coach. You have your own podcast called The Jimmy Rex Show. I've been fortunate enough to be on. I feel very, very fortunate to have been on it. You've done how many episodes now?
I think around like 270 now.
Yeah. You're an extreme adventurer. You love to read. You love to learn. You are passionate about designing your own life. We're going to get more into that. You have an amazing morning routine, which we'll talk about. And, the list keeps going on and on. You've written a few books, bestsellers. The one you just wrote is called "You End Up Where You End Up Where You're Headed." Right?
You end up where you're heading.
Or heading. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm way off. I've got it written right here in big bold letters. But that book is amazing as well. And so, again, the list goes on, but you are very passionate about helping other people. And let's just start there. Why are you so passionate about that?
Somebody asked me the other day the same question, literally this week, and I kind of laughed. I said, I don't know why everyone's not like this. Like, it's so fun to be like this. Like, right. The gift is mine. Like, yeah. I get to have all these amazing and cool experiences. And I don't know. I never felt like I was wired differently or funny because of this, but like, I truly believe that way. I'm like, it's so fun to just go about helping people and doing cool things. Like last night, I had the chance this group invited me to go to dinner and talk about, they're trying to do some charities to help the arts, and they wanted me to help them throw an event. And I sat there and I just kind of gave them some ideas of some things I've done. And then I walked around the corner. There was a group of women doing this $100 dinner club. And I got to go in there and just kind of, be at that thing with them for a minute and watch that. And it's like, what else was I going to do back to back last night that would have made me feel better? And then when I left there, I went to my buddy's house. He's got a kidney that's failing, and he doesn't get to leave the house much. And so I go visit him 3 or 4 times a week, and we open sports cards and stuff. And we laughed our asses off the entire time. And it's like, and then I go home, and of course I am in a good mood. Of course I'm going to be able to do good. I'm getting filled all the time. And so like, you could almost say selfishly, I just think it's an amazing way to live, but I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. I really don't. It boggles me. Yeah.
And I'm so glad you say that. 'Cause in my world, the recovery addiction world, it's one of the greatest principles we try to teach them is to give back, to go help someone. I'm a good friend of mine, Simon Sinek, which I know you know of. He wrote a book called Start With Why.
Yeah, of course.
And I heard him say face to face to me, if you master the first 11 steps of AA, you'll drink again. If you master step 12, you'll never touch another drop. Step 12 is go help somebody, go give back, go make a difference. And it's so powerful, right?
Well, yeah, and it's so hard not to be in a good mood when you're helping somebody else. Like I say, there's 2 attitudes I always try to be in. I try to be in a giving state, and then I try to be in a playful attitude. Like, good luck being angry and playful. Good luck being sad or whatever if you're giving, right? Like, it's just, these are 2 ways that you can always change your own mood. And so for me, rather than focus on what's wrong, and here's the thing about life too, is there's enough evidence for all the good or all the bad in the world. There's evidence for this is the worst place in the world or this is the best thing ever. And if you, what you focus on, you feel like that's Tony Robbins talks about that all the time. But so I always say, like, whatever you search, you're going to find. So try to stay focused on the good things, like find the good and life will be good. And if you look for the bad, unfortunately, you'll find that too. And so, and the funny part is our DNA, our hard wiring as humans is designed to keep us alive. Like above all else, we're designed to stay alive as creatures. And so our brain is always trying to look for what's wrong or what's bad so that it can avoid danger or so it can fix. And so you have to overtrain your own brain to look for the good. And so that's the importance of doing, every single day, being intentional about it. And that's what I like to talk a lot about is being intentional about trying to find good in your life, because you have to override your natural reptilian brain that's trying to look for the negative thing or what's wrong so that it can help itself to fix it and stay alive.
Oh, wow. Very well said. I've never heard it said that way. That's very powerful. So ultimately what I'm hearing too is when we do that, it isolates us. We isolate, we don't connect with people. When we're doing that, right?
Yeah. And, that's one of the things about the pandemic, why I've been so outspoken against the shutdowns and the lockdowns and even the masks is I always say, the devil divides and God gathers. Like when people are coming together, it's usually for a pretty good purpose. Like, and when people are isolated on their own or we're trying to separate people, like it's very hard to get that human connection that we all long for so much. And, they're trying to do all these things like, well, we'll connect over Zoom or we'll connect over this. And it's just a different thing. You have to, like, there is a reason, like when you connect with another human being, there's a reason that a baby will reach out and grab its mother's hand the first thing out of the womb. So there's a reason people on their deathbed, if you hold their hand, you can feel them. That connection, it's physical and it needs to be that way. And so I'm a huge gatherer of people above everything else I love to do. I love to get people together. Like I will to my death fight to get people together. And so that's why, for me, it's you got to be careful with, health this last year has been so crazy. It's been getting looked at as like, okay, you can get sick or, get the coronavirus by going out, but it's like health is so much more than that. And the mental health, the spiritual health, and even the physical health of people need to be together.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Again, in my world with the addiction recovery world, last April, when we were on the lockdown, over the entire country, relapse was up 1,000%. And again, we got people here today who will tell you the reason why I relapsed is when I had to lock down. I was working in my little bedroom and I couldn't go see anybody, this and that. And he goes, and I just felt lost. I felt that disconnect.
Yeah, I've literally almost every single day, literally for the last year, I've tried to get people together. I've tried to do things strategically to get people together. I've thrown so many poker nights or events, the $100 dinner club. All these things had a strategy behind them to gather people. I want people to get together, and it's the most important thing, I think, for us as a humanity.
Well, I laugh because it's true. I know that's what you do. I mean, when I watch you and things that you're doing, when I see you on social media and all these other new platforms, I just start laughing. I'm like, man, this guy is just partying, having a great time, but you're doing good with it. And that's what I love.
That's the thing is like people will be like, these guys are reckless. They're killing people. It's like, oh, you have no idea. I'm so opposite of what you think I am here, but I don't even care. I'm like, I know my truth. I know my integrity around why I'm doing this. So every time I throw in a big event or I'm throwing a party and I'm getting all these people together, like I'm truly not bothered at all by the opinions of these other people. They just don't know what they don't know. And I can look at it that way, and I can laugh because I'm like even like my buddy opened his gym this year and we do these a couple times a week. We'll all get together, 10 or 20 of us, and work out together. And it's so awesome. And it's like, anything I can do to get people together right now, I'm trying to do that because people need to know, like, you need to be around other people. Yes, you can get the coronavirus, but you can't live in fear. You can't live in it is what it is. And we don't want to make this about that, but it's just, to me, it's so crucial to be around other people and share love, because there's a different feeling when you're in front of somebody. Go meet with the person that has the politics the exact opposite of you. I bet if you sit down in a room together and look each other in the eyes and first tell each other 2 or 3 things you love about the other person, I don't care what you talk about next. It's going to be respectful. You're going to appreciate each other. You're going to treat each other differently. And so online, I just refuse to engage with people about
Yeah.
things that I don't agree with, because it's such a wasteful energy, and
Just
it's,
waste of
and
time.
people are just,
Yeah.
they're living in a fearful state. And again, it's the lowest frequency you can have as a human is to live in fear. And so
Wow.
it's the opposite of faith. It's the opposite of love. It's the opposite of hope. And so I try to always, anytime, whatever I'm afraid of, I try to face that thing head on. And instead of having fear around it, I now have love towards it. So I'll tell a quick story. And I'm just kind of going on
You're
tangents
doing
here,
great.
but
You're doing great.
I went to a couple of years
Love
ago, when after 9/11 and everything with all that, Islam obviously got, a lot of people got afraid of Muslims and Islam and all those things, me, myself included. I mean, I live in Utah. How many people do I meet from the Middle East, And a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, I had a chance to go with one of my close buddies. He's from Egypt. And he invited me to go with him to meet his family and to go see the pyramids and all that. And I'm a world traveler, and so of course I wanted to go do it. And we get there, and he hadn't been home in 11 years. And, we're sitting there and we're hanging out for a few days with his family. They'd had these giant feasts, and it was the most loving, beautiful family. It reminded me a lot of families in Utah, to be honest. This Muslim family. And after 2 days with them, the mom comes over and she's crying, and she says, "You don't have any idea what it means to me as a mother to see that my boy has a friend like this in the United States, where I haven't been able to help him or see him in 11 years. And it was just like, I had the most beautiful feeling, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is what I've been afraid of,
Yeah.
And so anything that you're afraid of or you fear, you really got to face it. You really got to go lean into it, as Brene Brown says, and that fear goes away and it is replaced with love.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And speaking about, that you love to gather, and you really do. And one of the things you've been starting to do, you've been doing it for a while, the $100 dinner club. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Tell us about that and why that started and how you came about that, and just tell us where you're going with it.
Yeah, no. So me and some friends opened
This is incredible, guys.
We opened a tequila bar Mexican restaurant in Vegas about a year ago, last January, right before the pandemic. And a month and a half in, we had to shut down for 2 months. And long story short, I'm involved enough with the restaurant business. My first job was a busboy, and I've seen how they've just been destroyed. And I hate it so bad, because it's so counterproductive to, like, anytime I see inefficiencies in life, it just drives me insane, because it's like, you can fix it. And if you look at the stats of the number of people getting sick or COVID from restaurants versus the reality of what they've doing to these people, and anybody that's gone to a restaurant, you see these families, it's this ma and pa thing. They had a dream. They've been living it. They've been half of the years they make great money. Half the years they're surviving. Yeah. But they're all like these battlers. And my heart has just gone out to the restaurants the whole pandemic. Yeah. And so I was the first one to start going out to restaurants. I just the first week it happened, I bought $10,000 in gift cards to restaurants, local restaurants. And then I challenged all my friends to do the same thing, to help them, because they were closed. Yeah. And I think we got 13 of us that did it. Really? And so that was kind of the first thing we did for restaurants, and then we just kept on going. Every time we'd get together, we'd go out to a restaurant, whatever. And I saw a Facebook video, I think end of November, so maybe it was December, but it was like 4 or 5 realtors had gone out to breakfast, and they all left $100 tip. Right. And the waitress is crying, and I was just like, that was so cool. And I was like, well, I'm doing this. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to do this every week. And then I was like, wait, just like I did with the gift cards, I'm like, I'm going to inspire my friends to do this every week too. I was like, I'm just going to start a club. And I have a lot of people reach out to me from the podcast, the book, just on Instagram and stuff, that want to meet. And I'm like, this is a perfect way to let anybody come and be a part of this. And so I just decided, I called my marketing guy, and I'm like, hey, go buy the domain name $100 Dinner Club. We're doing this thing. And so I just started sending out the message of it. And I said, look, here's what we're doing. And we did the first one. It's kind of cool. So just to give you an idea. So what we do is everybody, we get anywhere from, I think our smallest one's been 12, biggest one's been 100. So from 12 to 100 people, we all get together once a week. We do it every week. And it's $100dinnerclub.com. If you live in Utah and you want to join us, just sign up. All that does is it sends you a text and email every week of when and where. And then you can join us if you want. But everybody pays $100 that all goes towards the tip at the end of the night. Oh, man. So it was cool when we picked that. Just to give you an idea how God works too. That's so cool. Like the very first one we did, I'm just randomly thinking of some restaurant to go to. And I picked this little Peruvian place. It's in Orem. I've never been there. Somebody just suggested it, said they've been hit hard by COVID. I think we got 25 or 26 of us go. And we go do it, and there's 2 waitresses. There's the lady that owns the place, so she's one of them, and there's another girl, her daughter was there. There's the only 2 employees. There's no one else is eating there. Right, place is pretty empty. and we have the meal and we bring them in afterwards and we tell them and we make a cool video of it. The whole point was to make video, make it go viral, kind of like Dave Portnoy's doing with the Barstool Fund, right? Helping restaurants and stuff. I wanted it to kind of have that kind of same idea. And so we post it, and actually a girl that I dated like 3 years ago, she's married now, a couple kids and stuff, and she hits me up and she goes, "Jimmy, I'm bawling right now. You have no idea what you just did." And I get a little emotional, but and she says, "I need to tell you about what happened yesterday when you guys went to that restaurant." She goes, "That's my aunt's restaurant." And she said her aunt, who ran that restaurant with her for 18 years, passed away yesterday morning.
Wow.
And she wasn't going to come into work, but she had this big group coming in at night, so she decided to come in still. And then her daughter that was there got pregnant when she was 14 years old, decided to keep the baby. She's a senior in high school, and he's deaf. I mean, they've just been battling. And she says, "Jimmy, she's like the best human ever. She's just been going through such a hard time. And just last week, she had to pay for these ear things that were several $1,000s. And she said that you guys like could not have timed that better for this money." And it's like, just gives me the chills to know that like we were guided to people that really needed it in that moment. Right. And it was really cool. I've got to know them a little bit more. And every week it's that story every week. Cause here's what you realize. It's not like that we found them at the perfect time. It's that everybody needs to feel that love. Like everyone has a story right now. Everybody's hurting. And so anybody that you go out and help, naturally you're going to find people that it means the world to. And that's even more than the money that it does. I mean, we've had, like I said, we did a $10,000 tip the one night.
10,000.
There's 100 of us. Yeah. And we split it between like 6 or 7
still,
of them.
Though,
it was
amazing.
I
can't even imagine what they were thinking.
So fun. Yeah. It was so much dang fun. And here's the cool part. It's like, such a little thing, but even more than the money, like people feel that hope of like, wow, somebody cares about me. Random strangers actually care. Like I'm being seen, I'm being understood, like people actually love me. And so anyway, it's been really cool. I think we've had them over 40 that I know of in other states now. We did one in Mexico. I was down there last weekend. I was volunteering at this children's hospital and with 4 other guys. And I just told them, one of my stipulations for coming, they really wanted me to be a part of this. It's a children's cancer hospital. They're trying to help out. And I said, one of the things, if I'm going, we're going to do the $100 dinner club in Mexico. And we're going to give some guy or gal this giant $500 tip. And they're like laughing. They're like, all right, sounds good. And so we did it. And we had this guy was the best waiter I think I've ever had. Really? And after the meal, we do it. And he's just like so grateful. And then one of his other coworkers comes up. She goes, "I got to tell you guys about him. Like 2 years ago today, his brother disappeared. And he's never seen him again since."
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's crazy. This is in Sinaloa, Mexico. So it's like, it's Jalisco and all that where everything goes down. And long story short, as we're leaving, he's giving us all hugs and he's crying. And it's just like the timing of that $500 tip we looked at is about a month and a half worth of tips typically in like a place where we were.
Right.
But, and so anyway, I don't know. It's just been such a cool thing. It's such a little thing that you can do. I mean, I posted last night on my Instagram. There was one in Kentucky that I didn't even know happened. Somebody sent me the TikTok of the video of it. And it turns out, you just watch this waitress get this $1,400 tip that I'm never going to meet. Just, you can tell it means the world to her. And it's been really cool to just try to spread that goodness. And here's the beauty of it. Like I get so many good feels all day long from doing it. Right. And so like selfishly, again, I get such a reward for doing it. It's obviously though, it's just doing that. Yeah. Just becomes such a fun way to live. I don't know. I can't explain it another way.
No, in that video you were just talking about, it was posted on your Instagram this morning. Mm-hmm. I showed it to a client of mine here, and he started to cry, and I was welling up. And it's like you said, how can you not feel good? Even just watching it, we weren't even there.
Sure,
but it's still. I was like, wow, I felt amazing, and you've inspired me. I told you I gave a $100 tip a couple weeks ago down at a restaurant here, and it was just me, but it's still, I was like, you know what? Because I've been a waiter, I've been a bartender, I've been a busser, and I know what it's like when you don't really get appreciated almost. And so I've always been a guy that tips really heavily. My wife's always like, "Why are you tipping so much?" I'm like, "Honey, I've been in their shoes. Let's give her a really nice tip, And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, I decided anytime I go out ever again, if I have somebody that I leave a tip to, I'm going to make it $100. And I start doing the math. I'm like, I bought a $17,000 baseball card last month. I can tip $100 every time I go out to eat. You know what I mean? It's just like so dumb. But it's you have all these different people that you never know each person what it's going to mean to them or what the experience is. But like to look back at the end of a year, maybe you go out 200-300 times. Like that's pretty special to think like how many, you don't know those stories. You don't know what it meant, but it's fun, man.
And what's the website again if people want to check that out?
Just $100dinnerclub.com. Yeah, so the number $100dinnerclub.com.
And you do this is it weekly?
So I'm doing it every week. Okay. What I encourage people to do is to do your own $100 dinner club.
Just do your own.
Yeah, what I want is I want it to spread. I want it to be a movement. And so do your own, film it, share it, use the hashtag, tag me in it if you want to so I can see it. I'd love to see them all. Yeah. But like I got a dude that's flying in, so we're doing one tomorrow here in Utah. And there's a dude flying in from Wisconsin because he wants to meet me and then he wants to go big with it in Wisconsin, but he's coming to see ours.
Just to check it out.
He's literally just flying in to come check it out. And then he's going to bring it back to Wisconsin. I had another guy text me this morning. He goes, I got groups of sales guys in South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, and we got one going every week in all 3 states now. And so I really want it to become a movement where, and it's really special. Like it's such a good way to network. It's such a way to get out. And here's one of the cool parts too, is it's kind of like, again, I'm very anti shut down restaurants and COVID and all that stuff. And so it's my little subtle way of being like, you can't even get mad at me for getting people together now because we're doing really good things. So good luck getting mad at me.
Well, it sounds like the movement, I mean, it's starting to get some traction there, which is really amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Especially when you got guys flying in from the other side of the country to come check this out. And again, I'm gonna check this out, and I want to do this myself. I'm gonna do it.
Do one. I love it. And by the way, you can't screw it up. If it's 3 of you, that's a $300 tip. If it's 30 of you, like people are like, what if nobody comes? Like, what do you mean by nobody? Like, what if there's only 7 or 8 of us? I go, that's a $700 tip.
Or
like,
even if it's just you that shows up, they get $100.
Well, and that's what's been happening. There's been hundreds of those, right? Like I quit posting them because I was getting so many people were, sending them to me, showing me. One of my buddies, he's an NFL Hall of Famer. And he sent it. I went with him to climb Mount Kilimanjaro a few years ago, and he sent me one the other day. He goes, "Bro, you're inspiring all of us. I'm going to get all my boys doing this." Like, it's such an easy thing to do, and I bet there's been over 1,000 $100 tips already given. So beautiful. Most of which I'll never even know about.
Oh my gosh, Jimmy, that's so incredible. Thank you for doing that and being a good example to all of us. I'm serious. It really inspires me, truly. So. You're amazing, dude. There's so much I want to talk about. I want to maybe do a little bit of a shift, and I want to talk about your new book that you just came out with. You end up where you're heading.
I know it's a little bit tough to say. You end up where you're heading.
It's the way I wrote it. It's my fault. Great book. Tell us what that's about and why you wrote it. I know you've written another book before that was a bestseller. I'm not sure. Has this hit the bestseller
the first
yet?
book, it did. Yeah. The first book was just a real estate book. It was basically I interviewed 100 of the top agents across the country, took all their best information and put it in a book for newer agents.
Okay.
So it's an awesome book, and we've sold 6,000-7,000 of them. But this new book, this was a project that I'd always wanted to put together. So the tagline of the book is "The Hidden Dangers of Living a Safe Life," and that's the part that I really wanted to emphasize. So. Thankfully, I'm just wired funny where I don't feel fear much around things. Like even people that don't like me have told me that, I had a buddy that I call him a buddy now, but about 3-4 months ago, we ended up connecting, and he's like, "Bro, I got to be honest. Like I've hated you my whole life." I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, "Can I tell you why?" It's like, "Sure." And he's like, "You just don't care what people think. Want to do that so bad, and you just do that. You truly don't care about the opinions of other people. You just do what you want to do." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't." Yeah. He goes, "I know." And he's like, "It drove me insane." He's like, "But instead of hating you for it, now they're like, I know you. I actually can," and it was just really funny. But at the end of the day, so long story short, I wanted to provide kind of a blueprint for people to help them, because all the rewards I've gotten in life, Todd, have come from going for it, from putting myself in an uncomfortable spot. And people always be like, "Why are you doing that? Like you already have this and this and this and this." And I'm like, "I don't know. I just want to try something else." That's living, right? And so on their deathbeds, nobody regrets the things they didn't do, or excuse me, the things they did. Right. Nobody regrets the mistakes they made, the things they did. They regret the things they didn't do, the dreams that died within them, the risks they never took, the business they never started, the woman they never asked out, the conversation they never had with their kid. That's the stuff that we regret. And so what the book does is it kind of follows, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, essentially there's these different parts of our life, and we can all be the hero of our own story. And that's kind of the premise of the book. So I use my own stories, my own experiences, and the rewards that I've gotten by living a life this way, and by, taking these tough things or doing these tough things. There's, so many people are so scared of having a tough conversation, that they literally will live a certain way for 15 or 20 years as opposed to having one tough conversation with a wife or a husband or with a kid or with a boss.
Right.
And I start to hear these stories and I talk to them. I'm like, wait, like, how long have you felt like this? I don't know, 10, 12 years old. Why didn't you say anything? I don't know. I was afraid. And so I try to like go through and help, and Tim Ferriss always says, he says, the quality of your life will be directly tied to the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. It's a beautiful quote. It's like,
that is beautiful.
And so getting uncomfortable is the key to life and doing these things. And so I really try to help people see how that works and why. I mean, back in the day, being a settler meant that, like, an explorer, they always died. Like all the famous explorers from time, they all ended up dying on their explorations, right? Like it was safe to be in the settlement and to just settle in. Well, it's the opposite now because we have all of our basic needs met. They are met.
Yep.
And so what people are doing is they're dying this slow death. And so what the book is designed to do is to wake you up to that and help you get out of that. And I've had some really amazing stories. I'll tell you one real quick. There's a part in the book, it's called where you enter the cave. And essentially, throughout your path, you have to cross the bridge, you find mentors, you look for the elixir, all these different things that are part of the hero's journey. But there's one part that you have to do by yourself, and that is enter the cave. You can't go in there with somebody else. There's no support. This is just you with you. You are your biggest enemy. You know all of your flaws. You know all your weaknesses. This is you digging into your soul and coming out of there, whether or not you want to do it or not. And I had a guy hit me up on Instagram, and about a 60-year-old guy, and he said, hey, can I please go to lunch? Your book changed my life. And this is a couple months ago. And I said, yeah, for sure. And we go to lunch, and he said, the part of your book, it talks about entering the cave. He said, when I was 12 years old, I was molested, and I remember it. He said, my entire life, I've just put it in the back of my mind. I've just kind of didn't want to deal with it, didn't want to look at it. He said it screwed up my relationships with my kids, with my wife, basically everything in my life. It's pretty much screwed up. He said, I finally, after reading your book, realized I needed to enter the cave. I needed to face this. He said, I got to tell you, I'm getting so much rewards. He's reconnecting with his kids. He's getting, health around it. He's meeting with people that, therapists and all these different things. And he just said, he goes, I have this new fire for life that I haven't had in 45 years. And he got that from hearing that through my book. And it was like, this is a guy that I'd never met, that I would have never known. And it's just really cool. And it's just like all these little things. And so hopefully that's the book is designed to help people realize that your life is yours. And most of the pain that we have in life, Todd, I've experienced, almost all pain comes from expectations of what our lives are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And most of those expectations aren't even our own. They're expectations of other people or our family, our parents, or a coach or a teacher or whatever. But when you truly look at your life and you go, my life doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't need to look a certain way. The beauty of life is found in the mess. I have a piece of art in my closet in my bedroom, and it's a beautiful woman kind of with a mess of like paint all over it. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful mess. And the reason I have that is because life truly is a beautiful mess. You have a quote on your wall that says, the most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there's nothing wrong with you. Because that's stripping that expectation, right? Yeah. That's knowing that like, I don't need to be anything. I don't need to be anywhere. Yeah. I just need to be in this moment right now. Yeah. And it took me so long to get that. Like, I came up in a very religious background. I had so much pain around what I wasn't or not living up to what I was supposed to be doing. And all these things that, I was slaying life in my 20s. I was like really doing great. And I felt like a failure because I was like, well, why am I not married? Why am I not progressing in this way? I keep getting told that's my one thing I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not doing it. Right. And it just didn't feel authentic. Like, thank God that I never listened, that I honored my own path. And, I went to a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny event about 4 or 5 years ago. That's where I came with my mission, purpose for my life and all that stuff that we talked about a little bit. Yeah. But in that event was the first time I understood myself completely. And we have these 6 human needs, and one of them is variety. And, I ended up taking a test, and I scored higher on that test, they said, than anyone they've ever given it to. Really? My need for variety. And so had I not listened to my heart, had I settled into this life that wasn't authentic, like what a shame it would have been if I never got to become me, right? Like what a tragedy to the world or myself if I wouldn't have done that. And so I just started bawling. I was so happy because I finally realized, like, Jimmy, you did it. You honored yourself this whole time. Like when everybody else thought you were doing it wrong, when everybody else from family, parents, bless their hearts, they all loved me. They just thought that's what would make me happy.
Yeah, it's like, go this road.
But it wasn't. Like, and I honored it. And so here I am today. And so I try to tell everybody, like, when you can truly strip the expectations of what your life has to look like, you get to build it by design in a way that it's authentically yours. Yeah. And when you build your life, it's really cool because all the good things that happen, you can take ownership.
Yeah.
And the bad things that happen, they're not bad. They're just,
Yeah.
you're just have learning days. You're like, oh, all right, well, that's an interesting thing. It's not a bad day because your expectation wasn't that you had to succeed for it to be a good thing. All you had to do was try. All you had to do was put yourself out there.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. So I'm sure you've got a lot of, you mentioned it, you got a lot of great feedback with your book and this and that. You wrote the book. Did you have expectations for it? I mean, you said strip away expectations, but
no,
did you
it's
want to,
huge. Yeah.
What was the, like your goal with it?
Well, so I have one of my best friends since I was 12 years old is my buddy Cameron Carling. He's the co-author of the book.
Okay.
And so he was a bigwig at Google, and he retired, moved with his family to Costa Rica to just kind of do their thing down there. Well, he's like me. He gets bored after like 2 weeks, He's like, all right, that was... He called me and he goes, hey, I love everything you're doing. And he had helped me with other projects I'd done, including my podcast and my TV show back in the day. He said, are you working on anything I can help you on? I just want to help with whatever you got going.
Right.
I said, dude, I've got this idea for this book. And he said, well, I've always wanted to write a book. Let's do it.
Wow.
So we
awesome.
Partnered up on this book. So and he's been my best friend since I was 12. So he knows my voice. He knows me.
Everything,
he knows how to write in my voice. And so I would record all my stories, or I'd send him all my stories, and then he would basically write it out. So he's really, if I'm being honest, he wrote about 90% of the book.
Right.
And he's much smarter than I. He's much better at words than I. Like truly so he goes, hey, I got the first 30 pages. I want to know what your thoughts are. And if you read the book, the first 30 pages are just blow it out of the water. I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. I literally read it and I was laughing. I'm like, this is so much better than I thought it was going to be.
You're making me sound
It was
so
literally
amazing.
so much better than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, am I insane? I gave it to 2 other people. I go, you need to read this today and give me your feedback, because if either I'm crazy or this is going to be an amazing, amazing book. And both of them were like, bro, that's as good as anything I've ever read. And I'm like, I know. Thank you. And so I got to give him the credit. Like he is the one that really formulated the book that way. But it's such a gift to do it together. And every time I get a text or an email or something from somebody, I forward them to him, and it's a daily thing, and he just loves it. It's really fun to. So he's really the mastermind that did that, with my stories and my voice and everything. And so I give him a ton of credit. But that's kind of how the book. It ended up taking him about 9 months.
Wow.
Really putting time in every single day. But yeah.
Well, it's an amazing book. I've read it, and some of the principles in there I teach my clients. I refer to about you on that, and it really is very well written. And I didn't know that you weren't writing. No, I'm kidding. I'm like,
no, I give him all the credit.
I know.
It's beautiful, and it's perfect, because it's like anyone that knows me knows there's no way I was sitting down for 9 months to write a book.
Totally.
But
I get it.
but by getting my stories out there, and that's how you really want to write a book anyway. You record it, and then you have somebody help you. Like, I mean, I'm not an editor, and it's actually a good point to touch on. Is one of the places where people get screwed up in life is they try to focus on things they're not really good at. What I've always said, because people always are like, Jimmy, how do you get everything done that you get done? Like, this is the big question I get asked, and it's I delegate everything that somebody can do as good as me. There's certain things that I have to do. I need to tell those stories. I need to be the one to be able to kind of put a vision towards this thing. I need to be making these connections or this networking, all these things. But there's so many things that other people can do well, and I let people do those things. So in my real estate business, again, my team sold almost 300 homes last year between 3 of us. And that's everything else we were doing. And people are like, I don't get it. Like, when does he, I don't even understand this. I have the world's greatest people around me. I truly have surrounded myself with great people, and then I let them do their job. So my assistant, Chris, who's been with me for 12 years in real estate, I let him do every part of the business that I don't have to do. And he knows when I have to do it. Like, hey, need you to make a tough phone call. Boom. I jump on and make the tough call. Right. But otherwise everything goes in. So one of the things where, I'm so open about saying, like, I didn't write most of that book, like very little of it. In fact, is because you have to be willing to let other people succeed around you. We can only do so much by ourselves, but when we partner up and we team up and we, group up with the right people, you can get so much more done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I wrote a couple books, and I had a ghostwriter.
Of course,
because I'm not good at writing. I can tell a great story. I can do all that, but you're right. You got to get the right people involved. Back to you've been a realtor for how many years now?
Yes, 17 years now.
17 years. And what I love about that is, at least from my perspective, what I've noticed is that obviously you love being a realtor. You do an amazing job at it. You have a great team, like you said. You've done courses, you've written books and that. But what I get from you, it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. You like to see people succeed. So part of you in that role, if we're going to say that, is you're helping other people get to where you're at. Is that correct?
Yeah. And it's funny as, so my business partner, he essentially called me, started as my assistant, whatever, when times were tough in 2007, 8, 9.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to tell him to hold his check, and he was getting paid very little. We're talking less than 40 grand a year,
Man.
And I'm like, I need you to hold your check until this deal closes. And he stood by me, and he stood with me, and he's been my best friend since we were 12. And, the last couple of years we've crushed it. Right. And I give him a percentage of the business we bring in. And so last year in 1 month alone, he made more money in 1 month last year than he made in 2008, 9, 10, 11 combined. And so again, and people are like, why are you overpay so much for an assistant? I was like, it's so much more than that, you guys. It's so much. And what the hell else would I do with my money? What could I possibly want to do more than to be able to help create this beautiful life for this man who has given his all to me for 15 years. He's been my best friend. He cares more about me than I do. I mean, the guy just literally will do anything, the most loyal person they come. Like, what would I possibly spend that money on better than helping him make his life better? And so I'm happy to pay him what he's worth, which is very high. Mm-hmm. But where other people told me I was insane, I always just said, no, I don't want to be around people that are depressed. I want to be around people that everybody around me thrives. I just love being around people that are doing amazing things, and everyone, can do that. And so I don't know, for me, that's the gift.
Yeah. Well, and that's what you do. You're giving away all the time. And what I've heard this, and you tell me if you've heard this too, and I believe it's true, but I have. So I heard like philanthropists who have all this money, they give their money away, but they can't give it away fast enough because it keeps coming back. Have you noticed that in your life?
Todd,
because you give so much.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about, I don't know like what God looks like and all that, but I can tell you this, everything in this world is connected energetically. That's one of my most firmest beliefs. Call it universe or God or whatever that source of power is and love. And anything you put out into the world is going to come back. So one of the things we talked about the last time I was on the podcast, and I'll just briefly touch on this because it's such a powerful story, but I got the chance to work with Operation Underground Railroad. I went on 11 operations undercover with them. I work with a group now called the Child Liberation Foundation. And it's funny because I'm really good at getting myself in the room if I want to be there.
Yeah.
And so I finagled my way into like a lunch with the people, basically the decision makers of who gets to go on these ops. And I remember he's like, well, here's a couple things you have to do. Mm-hmm. You have to do this training, this fight to kill training. You have to donate enough money to pay for the full op yourself. And so, I mean, when he told me that, I'd brought my check with me. And at the time, this is what people don't know is I had invested a bunch of money into this other company. I didn't really have a whole lot of liquid cash. I had one emergency account that had about 50 grand in it.
Right.
It was my emergency account. I bet I had 10 to 15 grand in my name other than that. As a realtor, that burns pretty quick. I did not have extra money.
Sure.
And he told me how much I was going to have to pay to this, to the foundation to do this op. And I wrote the check right there and I slid it across the table. And this is as much as my new truck. And when I gave him the check, I remember I went and I told my assistant, Chris, I'm like, the same guy I was just talking about. Yeah. I just said, I just wrote basically I just emptied our emergency fund.
It's done.
I go, I promise you it was an emergency and it'll come back. But I'm telling you from that day to today, my life financially, and I only say this financially because that's what you're essentially saying is it is crazy. The doors that have opened, the people I've met, the opportunities I've had, the deals that have got done. I mean, I literally am closing deals with people that I met through that organization. I had a buddy just close a house that it was a 6-figure commission check. And he literally called me. I met him undercover in Mexico.
Really?
And he just said, hey, I need to buy this building. Will you write the contract? And I'm like, well, yeah, how much should I put for the commission? He goes, well, what do you normally get? I'm like, well, here's what they're offering. And he goes, yeah, just put that. I mean, it was a 6-figure check. And literally I wrote the paperwork. It was like a 5-minute deal. That was, and I'm just like, but he goes, I go, well, thank you, man. That meant so much. He goes, are you kidding? I'd never do a deal without you. You're my realtor. You're my guy. And I've had 50 of these experiences with people I've met through that one organization.
Right.
I wrote that check when it hurt. And by the way, if giving doesn't hurt, you're not giving enough.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I like to say. It should sting. It should hurt a little bit.
It should hurt.
If you're not, then and people always say well, when I have money, I'll give it away. No, you won't. Because if you're not giving it away now when you don't have it, you won't give it when you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I have so many experiences where it hurt to do it. And I've just decided I'm going to be a person that comes from an abundance mind. And here's how the world, so to scientifically tell you why it works. So that's an example. Scientifically, what happens is whatever you lack in life, you should give it away. And I'm going to say it again, whatever you lack, give it away. And what happens is The universe is very sneaky, and it listens to everything we say.
Yeah.
If you say that nobody loves me, well, then you're going to see signs of nobody loving you. If you say everybody loves me, you're going to see signs of everybody loving you, right? Well, if you say to the universe, I know money is abundant, so even though I don't have much, I'm going to give it all away, then guess what happens? The universe goes, yeah, you're right. Money is abundant. Here, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's literally scientific. If I treat money as if it's in abundance at all times, and so I don't hoard it and I don't hold it, right? Like we talk about it in the Bible. Christ talks about anything you hide your gift, you lose it, right? And so I just think scientifically, if you literally say to the universe, I'm going to give this thing away, therefore it is abundant. It's everywhere. It will come find me. And then it just flows in. And so that's why I think that is. And by the way, it's the same thing with love. It's the same thing with anything. Whatever you want more of in life, give it away. If you want more love in your life, I promise you, start giving out more love. You'll get more love back. If you want more money, start giving away money and it'll come back.
Boy, Jimmy, you couldn't be more spot on. It gets me emotional what you're saying, because here's why. Neil Donald Walsh, who I'm a fan of, he says, if you want to be, give it away. So fill in the blank. If you want to be loved, give away love. If you want to have abundance, give away abundance. And, just in my story, I was a drug addict for almost 10 years, and giving my money away at a lemonade stand, what I got in return is my life.
Yeah.
And I had no clue. I just had this impression to do this. I'm giving away money and I got my life. And I know that sounds like people might go, what? And I couldn't agree with you more. But the way you worded that and the way you explained that is just, I've never heard of it said that way. So thank you for, clarifying this in such a way that's just really inspiring. Wow.
Yeah. No, that's
amazing.
And I love your story that you shared it on my podcast, and it's exactly right. It's just the principle of the universe, man. It's so sneaky. It listens to everything. And so you have to train your thoughts, because your thoughts become your words and your words become your actions. We've all heard this a million times, but it really is true. Whatever you're thinking about, good or bad, whatever you're flooding your mind with, it's going to come about. And so you got to be very careful and very vigilant of what you let in there.
Well, speaking of things that you say out loud and things like that, I know you have a morning routine. And I'd like to just talk about that for a minute. I know there's a statement that you say every morning out loud. And will you talk about that and share that with us? Yeah.
So that Tony Robbins event, the Date with Destiny, I'd lost my faith of my religion that about 4 months before that. And I really was kind of in this spot of like, well, what is my life about? Like, what is this whole thing going to be? I went to that event, and they do an amazing job for 7 days to help you truly understand where you've been, where you're going, what you're trying to do with your life, what your values are for and against and everything else. And after doing this, I developed a mission statement that as soon as I said it, I knew that was the purpose of my life. And it is, the purpose of my life is to share my tremendous love with all of God's children, bringing happiness to others through my playful soul and by being an example of living an extraordinary life. And I repeat that every morning over and over again.
It's tattooed on your brain.
It is. Yeah. And so because I know if I'm ever out of integrity, I'm violating something in that purpose. So if I'm not being playful, that's a big part of that purpose.
Right.
All of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is not my life's purpose. I need to switch how I'm being, right? If I'm not living an extraordinary life, if I'm playing down or I'm being lazy or I'm being weak or whatever it might be, I was like, oh, that goes against but by having that purpose so clear, it directs me in everything that I get to do.
Yeah.
And so my morning routine, it's not so much a routine as there's certain things I feel like you need to do every morning, because I like to stay out late sometimes. So I don't have this rigid, like I'm up at 6 every day, but I have certain things I want to do every morning. And number one is I want to get my vision for my life, right? And so I have my vision board. I have a meditation room. I go in and I have my life's purpose. I have my values. And I go in and I study that and I think about that. And then I have, I want to do something physical every morning to get the body moving. Then there's just certain things, prayer, right? Like start my morning with gratitude and all these different things and go through those things. And I think it's so important to just have certain things you do every day to put you in the great mindset. And honestly, like I was sleeping, I don't know, it was probably about 3 months ago. I slept next to somebody. I woke up and I was just grinning to her ear. And she's like, what the hell are you smiling at? And I just go, I don't know. I get to wake up and just be Jimmy Rex today. It's a good damn day. And she just is like, you're amazing. Like, she's just like rolling her eyes at me like, you're an idiot. But it was like, I go, you don't wake up like this? She's like, no, never. And I was just like, I truly just wake up excited to be me. And I don't know. I know that comes off arrogant to some people. I don't care. Like, I love being able to wake up and know that my life is going to be meaningful today, that
Yeah.
I'm going to have purpose, that I'm going to do something fun and touch somebody's life. And I pray for guidance to that. Like, who needs me? Who can I reach out
Right.
to today? But I truly get to wake up and just be me every day. And I think that's amazing.
That's beautiful. And really what you've said there is what I think the true meaning of success is waking up in a good mood. I mean, you can have all the success, all this stuff, but if you're waking up miserable, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
And so to hear you say that, and, and people will balk at that, like, oh yeah, that's not how it really should be, or should, that's, he's faking it. No, that's success. And I've followed you enough, and I've known you enough that I know that that's true. I mean, I know that's how you live your life.
Yeah. And again, life is a beautiful mess. Like, I can't say that enough, because every time people come to me and they're in a bad place or they're down, they feel like they're not living up, or they have this expectation where they should be or what they should be doing. And it's like, no, it's perfectly yours. Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like, just understand that your life doesn't need to be anything. It's just simply and again, I design my life more than anybody.
Right.
I put my goals and my vision and everything, what I'm trying to do. But I'm also aware that it doesn't have to look, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself. But when you can get that and you truly get that concept, that's why I came back to it, I think it just takes away this pain out of our lives.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Very well said. A big portion of my followers and listeners they're either in addiction, they've got a family member in addiction. It's, I've got a lot of followers in that area. If you could tell them something right now, that if someone right now is in a dark place, they're struggling, they feel trapped, they're miserable, that kind of thing. You've already shared a bunch of beautiful things, but if there's someone listening right now that needs to hear something from you right now, Jimmy, what would it be?
First off, what I'd say is, like, your pain's real. I don't ever want to discount that. Like, bad things happen, horrible things happen, and people's pain is real. What I would also say to that is, no matter where you're at in life, you still control your destiny. You still are the person that gets to decide what tomorrow looks like and the next day. It doesn't take, people think it takes a year or 5 years to turn a life around. It actually happens immediately.
Yeah.
You can make that decision at any moment. And here's what I tell people. I say, look, don't fall in love with your story, because everyone has a story of why their life sucks, or why they're down, or why they got screwed, or why they got, they're divorced, or they got cheated on, whatever, somebody died, or they got a disease, all these different things. And unfortunately, the world will tell you, yeah, you're a victim. You should be compensated, or the government needs to save you, or whatever it might be. And so there's a lot of people, unfortunately, feeding you with bad information. Yeah. Here's the thing is, you can be a victim to your circumstances. And by the way, you're justified. You're not wrong. You are a victim, but that doesn't serve you.
Right.
That's the only thing I can say. So instead of focusing on what's happened, focus on what you want. You can't, if you truly focus on what you want, then what's happened doesn't really matter. And so I just tell people, like, look forward, like, keep looking forward no matter what. Yeah. And by the way, whether you're had a good past or a bad past, forget it quickly, because it's still gone. Like, it's not there's here. No sense in living there. Right. And so I would just say to you, like you're not wrong. You are a victim, and bad things happen, but you actually are the person that gets to fix it. You are the person that gets, don't give up your power by letting yourself fall victim, or letting other people tell you you're a victim. You're not a victim. You simply need to get a big enough why to want to change your life, to want to get out of it. And when the why is big enough, the what doesn't matter, or the how doesn't matter. Like, when your why is big enough, when you truly know why you want something enough, you'll figure out a way to do it. Yeah, and just keep going. Just keep going. And by the way, like, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me in any way, I love helping random people all the time. Mr. Jimmy Rex is my Instagram. Happy to have a phone call or a chat or whatever I can do to help. But just send me a DM there. But keep going. I just, if people knew how great their lives are going to be, or how much potential they have to make their lives great, they just wouldn't focus on what's going wrong. They just wouldn't focus on the bad. But we get stuck in these places, and I've been there. Like, you're just stuck, and we're like, when am I ever going to get out of here? Right. And, like, bad thing after bad thing keeps happening. But, like, just know, like, it breaks. It will. But it's everything you put into your mind is going to eventually manifest out in another way. So focus on what's going in.
Wow, great advice. I love that. Thanks, Jimmy. So what's new on the horizon? Just, what do you got coming next?
Always have fun stuff coming up. So I'm excited for the world to open up. One of my big goals was to get
there.
I know it's coming. Was to get to 100 countries by my 40th birthday. That's in October. I'm at 71. I've been there for about a year now. I got to 2 new countries last year. I thought that was pretty good for a pandemic. You know,
not bad.
Went to Belize and Turks and Caicos, but it was different. But so I'm super excited traveling, and but just because it expands your mind, expands your heart. You understand people and culture and everything so much more. But I just always looking for fun opportunities. Like me and some buddies are starting a sports card shop downtown.
Oh, cool.
It's a huge investment thing right now. I'm starting another Mexican restaurant in Vegas with some buddies.
Right on.
Yeah, in Summerlin. And you know, I have just so many fun moving pieces. I just want to keep helping spread goodness, keep helping people live the best lives they can, and I don't know what's next, and that's kind of the fun of it, right? Like in the meantime, I'm just gonna keep waking up each day and trying to do good. I don't know.
Yeah, no, dude, you're incredible, man. Seriously, I could talk to you all day.
Appreciate
Can you stay here all day today? Please.
We'll set an appointment.
Yeah. Well, so what, I mean, obviously that you mentioned how they can get a hold of you on Instagram. If they want to buy your books and want to know more about real estate and things like that, is that still the best place to go, or do you have?
If somebody has if you want to read my book, just buy it on Amazon, or it's also on Audible. I read it, which was kind of fun.
You did, yeah.
I did, yeah. It was kind of fun.
It's not easy, is it?
No, it took
hard.
It took about 15 total hours. The day I was recording it too, I had this huge investment in a company called Nikola Motors, and it went public last year. And I had 6 months where I couldn't sell the stock. And the day I was recording it went up about 800%. I mean, and to tell you, like, you think you've had a bad day, I ended up making over $20 million that one day, and I lost all of it by the time I could sell it. And so it's so fun. No, but what a roller coaster, right? What a ride to be on. But the day I was recording my book, I was trying so hard to focus. The damn stock, every time I checked my phone, I made another $1 million. I'm not even joking. I had like 400 texts from people because everyone knew I had this big investment. And the company ended up going, you know, it turned out fine at the end. But it was like that day was such a wild day. Hopefully you can hear the enthusiasm in my voice. But it's on Audible.
Okay.
You can get it there. And then, I've got a lot of cool stuff coming out that's going to be more and more. But just follow me on Instagram, because whether I'm doing a big event, whether I'm doing a charity thing, whether I'm any kind of content that I'm putting out, I put it all on my Instagram story.
Great.
And so that's the best place to follow me, Mr. Jimmy Rex.
Love it. And that $100 dinner club, you got a website for that? Just to kind of
or just I also post that on my story every week.
You do the same as well.
Yep. So just if you ever want to come to one, we'd love to have anybody.
Yeah.
And we've got. I mean,
I want to check it out.
We usually sell it out in about 24 hours.
Oh,
I try to limit it so we can tell the restaurant how many are coming, but we usually get about 20 to 30 people. It's fun.
Yeah. When word gets out, it's like, hey, I think Jimmy and his crew's coming tonight. Everyone's gonna be like, yes, right? You know?
Eventually they're going to be waiting for us.
Get there. But that's really cool that you're doing all that. Well, I can't thank you enough, Jimmy, for taking some time out of your busy schedule. And you're not kidding. I know how busy you are. I reached out to you. You got right back to me that quick. And I was like, wow.
Sure.
Because I know how much you got going on. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate that you would take the time to drive here to my little studio here and sit down and share some very powerful principles with all of us. So,
well, you do a special thing, man. One of my best friends, in fact, I was coming from his office, and he's the only addict that I was ever really close to. And he's 9 years sober from heroin. Oh, wow. And he's my nutritionist, a guy named Brad Jensen. I love him. And I literally just came from his office, and he to watch what he's doing now and to see how he got through his addiction. I honor the work that you're doing, man. That dude was in a really bad place, and you know, I visited him in jail multiple times and thought we were going to lose him, but he's just thriving in life. And so the work you do is so valuable, so meaningful, and so I support you any way I can.
No, thank you, Jimmy. You're amazing. Well, there you go, folks. Another amazing podcast, Beliefcast with Jimmy Rex. Please check him out. He's the real deal. I mean, I'm telling you, he lives life to its fullest, and he really is inspiring to me. So please check him out. Reach out to him. He already said it. He'll answer any questions you might have. And if you want to join that $100 dinner club, do it. And if not, create your own. I like that, and I'm going to take that challenge, and I will show you that I'm going to do that.
I love it.
But anyway, thanks for joining in week after week. Again, thanks to our sponsor. I want to thank Paul Cardall for the beautiful music that he lets me play at the beginning and end of this show, and I love him too, and I love all of you. Thank you. I believe in you, and let's go give away what we want, because we'll get it back. I just love that. It was so beautiful. So until next time, and again, Jimmy, thanks.
Thank you.